Hello and welcome again to today's SIG CLI meeting, which is Kustomize Bug Scrub. We are going to go through issues that need triage on the customized repo and hopefully find some issues that folks might be interested in fixing. Before we get started, I'd like to make some time for anybody who has brought an issue today that they would like us to discuss. This is a great time to ask questions about any issue that you might be wondering about, or if you have an issue that yourself you want attention for, we can always go and look at that first. Or if you think of something during the meeting later, feel free to speak up as well. Does anyone have any issue they want to put forward? Ed.
Yeah, I've got a PR on 4928. Kustomize fails to apply overlay if key in base YAML is numeric and missing. We don't necessarily have to look at it, but if we have time, that'd be nice.
Okay. Sorry, what number did you say it was?
4928.
4928. Why did that? There we go. So this is key in base YAML is numeric and missing. Interesting. This seems related to the issue where numeric keys in general don't work super well. There's a sort of an umbrella issue somewhere about that.
Yeah, I think there was a comment linking that in.
Okay.
I had an initial PR that just made everything a string and realized that wasn't good. So there's a second one where the intent is to honor the whatever the style is of the incoming patch. So that doesn't guarantee you'll get something that works if you've got a misalignment, but hopefully that honors the intent.
Okay, and I see you have some tests here. Did you have any questions in particular about this, or just wanted to bring it to the maintainer's attention?
I just wanted to bring it to attention.
Okay. I'll have to refamiliarize myself with this code and give it a proper look, if that's okay. The approach seems reasonable on the face of it, but whenever I go into the weeds of KYAML, I have to sort of dig around to remind myself of all the edge cases and considerations.
No, I get it. I'm not asking to have it resolved now. Just figured I'd highlight it and see if there are any questions off the cuff. If not, we can just move on.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have something for us to look at up front? All right, so I guess we'll just take a look at the triage board. So at the top here, there's someone assigned, so I wonder if this is just a missing tag on this one. Or perhaps this was a previous bug scrub where Natasha was going to respond. Does anyone remember I wasn't able to make the last bug scrub? Whether this was something that Natasha was already talking about.
I can't really recall exactly.
So they're talking about the JSON patch operation. It doesn't hurt to read through it here. Can everyone see this, by the way, or should I increase the font size? Is it all right? Here, I'll share it in the chat as well, so you can go take a look. Oh, and by the way, I should share also the triage board if you want to look there directly. There you go. Okay. So here. It'd be helpful to have specified as part of the patch spec the expectations. So the number of changes or patches applied for the given patch. Interesting. So what occurs to me is that like we don't actually dictate what is possible in JSON formats patches. We sometimes get requests to handle a different operation or behave differently than we do today with an operation that already exists. And there's not actually anything that we can do about those because this is actually following a spec. We're using a third-party library for it because it's not actually our feature. And I believe JSON patch has a test operation. Let's see. Add, remove, replace, copy, move, test. So yeah, test that the specified value is set in the document. If the test fails, then the patch as a whole should not apply. So the question that comes to mind for me is like, do we actually support that operation? And if we do, could it be used to achieve their goal? Does anyone on the call have experience with JSON patch in Kustomize? Would anybody be interested in trying this out while we proceed with another issue? Otherwise, I can try something live here. So I haven't done this before, but I have like a sort of a scratch directory that just has random customized stuff in it that I repopulate with test cases when I'm trying to figure out if something works or not. So what I would do in this case is we have our patches, and this is looking like they're using the patches field rather than patches JSON 6902. Or so what we can do is let's see, they want to do an add. Let's do a path that will exist. So let's see, labels and value. Let's see if I got the syntax right or not. And we're going to need a resource to patch. So I have some random resources in here from previous experiment. And I made this build task that, oops, hopefully will unknown field op. Okay, that's not the right syntax. Let's double check the docs here. So go to reference, customization, patches. Here we go. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. It is patches just in 6902 syntax. Yeah, it is. Okay. So we have op add. And this might answer my question too. Do we have anything about the test operation in the docs? We do. So let's see what happens. Unknown field app. Really?
I think you need a patch subfield. Like, so you can do it with patches instead of patch JSON, but under it, I think you need to it's like either patch or patches : and then the inline op. As
these examples are.
Sorry.
I see what you're saying, like this, right?
Yeah.
Except that I used right, because it's an inline string. I should know this. Thanks, Anna.
Sure.
And, oh wow, SIG vault, that is not good. That is the wrong field. Oh my gosh. I'm just going to put this into a new directory. Maybe circle back to figure out what I'm doing there. Oh, I see. Never mind. It's that, I believe. I got rid of the list by accident. Oh no. Line 8, do not find expected key. Let's do this.
Maybe it's because we need a target.
For the patches version, yeah, you're right. I'm gonna go back to JSON. Target, yeah, okay. Let's use the newer syntax if we're going to do that. So patches, we're going to do path, patch.yaml, target. What did I actually put in my resources file here? Kind namespace. Name my placeholder. Cool. Kind namespace. Name my placeholder. Yeah, okay. So add operation does not apply. Doc is missing path. Is that because we don't have any labels at all? Just to see what, okay, so it's able to add it if the parent exists. So what is the issue filer concerned about? It's not, that was not a different result, right? That was an error when we didn't have the labels part of the path. Are they saying does it have a different result if path to my resource existed or not? So maybe they're saying the full path. Let's see. No, it successfully operates whether or not that specific key existed, which makes sense. And then if we get rid of this again, we have an error because the path doesn't exist. So I'm not sure actually after that what they mean by it's having a different result. Like there's no result if the key didn't exist. Does anyone have an idea about what they might be talking about? We can also see what happens if we test the path. Test if there's labels first, which there currently are. So if we run the test, okay, what did I do wrong now? The example. You see, a bigger example is under the JSON. Oh, here we go. No, we should port these examples over to the newer field. Well, you can test for a specific value. So it's probably not able to test the path existing as a whole. Like that was an assertion that the value was empty, effectively. So if I did this, is it going to work? Yes. So that's not what they're looking for. So that tells me the test operation probably doesn't help them because they're looking for a specific path, unless they wanted to see like does we do labels foo value var, and if we rebuild that, it's saying actually that's not already set to something else. All right. So with that information, how should we respond?
I think maybe we need a better reproduction of their scenario. I mean, I think I get what they're saying is, if what they're saying is true, it's not failing, it's succeeding, but not doing what they want. And so they're saying they have to run it twice and compare the results. And I kind of wonder if what maybe another thing that they're asking for is some sort of structured or verbose mode or something they can know and inspect and do some sort of check to say, hey, I'm expecting that I should have a whole bunch of changes and I didn't get these certain changes I was expecting or something that, or at least failing, I guess. But I don't know if failing is right, but maybe some way for them to inspect what it did. I think it starts with like, can you give us a better repro? So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, thanks. I agree with that. Especially because like I just tried to do a repro with it has a different result based on the patch that they supplied, which is an add operation, and I don't get a different result. I do get an error, which sounded like what they wanted. So it's a good call. So let's see, triage needs information.
I took a moment to go back to the previous meeting where this was discussed. The discussion boiled down to basically, if this were pursued for this, it sets a precedent for basically all transformers. And then a conversation about potentially using logging as a mechanism for tracking. And then if the logging can be then used to do the validation that they're looking for, if the log messages are clear enough, that way we don't have to bake changes into the actual execution flow. We just log what happens.
Interesting. Yeah, having verbose logging is probably pretty useful in general. It's not something that's wired into Kustomize at all right now. Interesting. Another thing that comes to mind when we say that is that they're saying what they have to do is run a build with and without it and compare the output by doing diff, and that is actually like what Kustomize wants you to do, because the guarantee that we want to provide is that, and I guess that's why this is really trying to reproduce caught my attention here, is that their claim that we have a different result if a path existed or not, like that does sound like a bad experience. We do, generally speaking, they are modifying underlying configuration to create that scenario, but generally speaking, we want our build output to be as stable as possible. And if my intuitive sense of it is if that path doesn't exist, then that should be an error. So it's kind of surprising. We don't, like I was saying earlier, control what JSON patch does as a spec, but Kustomize does, generally speaking, want things like operations that can't be carried out to result in errors because you're declaring an intent to do a thing and then we can't do the thing, right? So I guess that the logging points is interesting. It strikes me as like sort of a very different angle on the problem. I think that's an interesting tool, but I don't think we want to take it too far there, because we do actually like or encourage the workflow that the logging would be a workaround for, if that makes sense.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks for looking that up, though. That's very helpful. So for now, I think it does make sense to still ask for the additional information. Provide more detailed consider I attempt to apply a and match on to a path that does not exist, I get an error. Which it sounds like is the outcome here. Or does that sound good? Okay. Might as well leave the docs open. Option looking for docs. So this one, surprised that's triaged. This one I'm familiar with. We have a linked PR open. It's an example that's in our repo that is part of a tutorial. And the tutorial tells you to create some files, but somebody is going in and trying to just build it as is. So the question on the linked PR is, well, do we say that's on purpose? You are supposed to create the files. This is a tutorial. Or do you say like, well, it'd be helpful if it just also worked and served as an example and people can follow the tutorial to add or modify the files as they go. But in any case, like, I think we can accept it because there are also some errors in the files that the PR is fixing. So I'm just going to go ahead. Triage that one. This one's a feature request, and I'll share it in the chat. Oh. There we go. All right, so it's possible to delimiter and replacement.target.options to join array values by delimiter into a scalar. Join array values by delimiter into a scalar. Okay. Let's look at the sample. So they're targeting this information. Interesting. They're trying to dry up their config in a sense, which is a lot of probably what replacements gets used for. Cylinder option can only be used with scalar nodes. So this is good to know because if we're currently throwing an error, then we're at least not going to be, that feature request wouldn't introduce a new breaking change for some other behavior. Scalar value by comma and then selecting a specific value by index. That's true. What is this example? Isn't this exactly what they just showed? Or is this doing it the other way around? Targets, ingress, source, CIDR addresses. Targets, ingress, source. No, what's the difference between these two? Did they just repeat their feature request, or is this actually different? It's supposed to be an implementation alternative. Oh, there we go. That's the difference. They actually are providing a duplicate there so that they're able to target exactly that information and just copy it over. That's what's going on, I think. All right, that's fine. Like, so they're saying like I could duplicate this information in 2 different places, one of which is suitable for extraction into the other resource as is, and then that would work. But I would rather not duplicate that information. You could also write a custom transformer, which is very true. So Natasha is the architect of the replacements feature, so I usually like to get her opinion on those. But real quick, let's take a look at the current meaning of the delimiter field. We have some formatting issues in the docs here. It does say it's used to split or join the field. And here is an example. It's intended to be used in conjunction with the index field for partial string replacement. For example, so we have a value path my value in our target. Then we can specify something like delimiter / index2 and replace with value. Yeah. So does that fit? Let me think. Does anyone else have any thoughts or opinions on this feature?
Sounds reasonable to me, but I don't know. I guess it depends on whether adding delimiter, if there's already precedent for a delimiter, then maybe it makes more sense to do. I don't know.
Yeah, and there is, at least to some extent here, like what they're saying does fit within the definition of used to split join the field. It's just introducing a semantic for a target that isn't supported today. I agree. It sounds reasonable to me. I think I'll tag it under consideration and get Natasha's opinion on it. She's the lead for replacements. And we have a bug report. Oh, that is a breaking change between very old versions. We don't support the 3 series anymore, so this might be a non-starter at this point. Let's see. Oh, I can still replicate on 457 though. All right. Perhaps I was previously relying on undefined or buggy behavior. Interesting. sorry. They're integrating it twice. Oh, they have a reproduction. Let's see. It'd be easier to understand. So we have our top level one that just pulls it in. We have B that just refers to the common but adds a name prefix. A does the same. And then here we have our service, the configurement generator. Looks really incomplete, actually. And then our resources. SE service was a base, right? Okay. And that just suffixes this. So this seems a little more complicated than it has to be. Presumably that doesn't affect it. All right. It's useful to have though. I always find it difficult with these multi-base samples when they're just written out in line to like visualize the structure. So I always appreciate when people provide a repo. Right, so they're saying that they are expecting the config map to get a suffix. And in fact, it's not that it isn't suffixed. I misinterpreted that. It's that the ref doesn't end up getting updated for some reason. It's just entirely not updated. Okay. I wonder if we can simplify this case a little bit. It's like the ref isn't even in the deployment to begin with. It is being introduced in this patch. Interesting. So I definitely want to try to reproduce first with 5.0 before going any further. And it might take a little bit of time to set up the structure and try to simplify it and see what can still reproduce their issue, assuming that it's reproducible in 5.0. So it seems like some of these factors shouldn't be relevant, and it would be good to know what the minimal case actually is. Would somebody be interested in trying to reproduce this? And if not, would folks find it more useful for me to be trying to do it live here, or to move on to another bug? I actually have just a related question for the group, since we're 12 minutes out here. I feel like these bug scrub meetings, it's a lot of me talking and sort of fumbling through the issues. And I was wondering if there's a way to make this more interesting or interactive for folks. Like today, I was trying to show my screen with some of the bug reproduction process, but that's still not very interactive. So a question for the group: if we perhaps didn't record it to sort of reduce the pressure, would folks who attend be interested in maybe leading individual issues? Say if we have the triage party tool can actually split up the issues among the group, and if we had if attendees were interested, we could say split up at the beginning of the meeting and everyone gets an issue and has 5 minutes, 10 minutes to dig into it. And then we could rotate around presenting and discussing each issue, so everyone would have a chance to sort of be more involved. But if folks think that's too intimidating, like, oh, really hate that idea, then we can keep it as is. So just a question for the group. What is useful and interesting to you about this meeting? And related to my question about right now, would you like me to continue with more issues discussion, or dive into this one for the reproduction case? Would love to hear your thoughts on how to make this more interesting and useful.
I think splitting up issues seems fun, and it'd be a good way for people to be force assigned a little bit, because once you've reproduced, if it turns out to be a bug, you're like halfway through the work. So it might be good for getting some momentum.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'm okay either way. I think it's interesting enough listening to you talk. So, but I think it's helpful. I have less expectations for this meeting. I guess I just figured that we go through and triage what we can and assign off the things that need more time. But I'm okay if everybody thinks it's more helpful to assign things to people and then rotate around. That's fine too. So I'm flexible on it. There's another main ref issue that I looked at a while back. I think it's 4880, and I don't know if it's related to this or not. And that's just a side note. I don't mean to derail this other conversation, but it's definitely Ed or Anna or you, if you have thoughts on what Katrina said, feel free to respond.
Well, I'll chime in just to say I'm not savvy enough with Kustomize to feel like I really can be overly useful. And my hope with these meetings right now is to sit and listen mostly so that I can be useful and hopefully not too long.
Yeah, and I think that's a great reason to come. So for you, would you still come if you had a role in like trying to understand a particular issue? I guess I should clarify, like the expectation wouldn't be that you know the answer and you triage it yourself. It's more like you take the time to do that like initial pass on the issue, understanding what the person's trying to say, seeing if their samples are actually valid, and then sort of just bring that to the group when it's your turn afterwards to say like, I did reproduce, I didn't reproduce, this is the part I don't understand. And like as you saw today, I forget stuff about how Kustomize works. I forget what the syntax is and I fumble around too. So I think there is definitely a place for even folks who aren't familiar to be very valuable in just trying to understand what people are trying to tell us.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes good sense. Where I would be hesitant would be sort of, driving the discussion. If the, role is really, excuse me, take it offline, track down as much as you can with the acknowledgement that may not be very far. I'm perfectly comfortable with that.
Yeah, I think what I was thinking was that it would still be online. It would be maybe at the beginning of the meeting, we would split up the triage party in the triage party tool, and each person would get one issue to look into. And then we'd just kind of be silent on the call for the first 5-10 minutes or something like that. I mean, you can ask questions as you sort of read through the issue. And then like go around and when it's your turn, you would just explain the issue. You don't necessarily need to lead the conversation in the sense of like getting the result, more like just explain it to the group, like what's going on here and what did you find out about it in your 5-10 minutes, whatever we decided was reasonable. And then like I will still write the triage comment if you're not comfortable or if we don't receive a conclusion. And I can also do something in the middle, like if we try this next time, say we can try not recording it to make it so that's less intimidating, and then take like volunteers to do that role. So it's not everyone, like you can still show up and not have to do that. You could just listen in. But folks who want to be like, who are looking to get more involved in Kustomize can step up to take that more active role in this meeting. And like, you know, so there'd be a few of us that do that. And it's a way to sort of take that next step in trying to figure things out. And I see you nodding. Would you be a volunteer if if we did that?
I don't have any strong opinions, but I feel like if we're open to the idea, we can experiment, right, and take it from there. Yeah, and I think it was really nice that Ed started with a PR question, because I can imagine if you don't have ready access to the customized maintainers, sometimes PR reviews, there's a lot of back and forth, and it might be nice for people to bring up their questions and just have a quick live discussion here. So I'm just open to all options.
Cool. Yeah, for the PR review thing, that actually makes me think, you know, if everyone is, if somebody brought a PR that they wanted some feedback on, and what the group was doing was having individuals go and look into specific issues during that time, if there are maintainers on the call, like, yeah, whoever is a maintainer on the call would also be able to use that time to sort of dig into whatever question the person had without doing this sort of just hot take live. Just have that longer time to give quality feedback, still within the scope of the meeting. Good work. All right. Thanks everyone for your opinions on that. And if you have any further thoughts about whether or not to do that experiment, or if you have another idea on how to make this meeting more useful to the project or to you as a contributor, please share it in the Kustomize channel. The meetings are monthly, so there's plenty of time to think about it before we do the next one. And I really appreciate your feedback. So coming back to this issue, we're trying to see now if this issue here might be related to this other one, which has been accepted from last November. So let's see, what was this one about?
I'm not sure it is related, actually. It was a name ref. It's related to name ref, but I think it's a different name ref issue, actually, now that I looked at it again.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. Yeah, name reference transformer is certainly involved because it's the thing that's failing to act on the example. Let me just take a quick look at what else has been reported, see if anything seems more urgent than this, and if there isn't, then maybe we can keep digging into that one. So we have, does not merge images from resources. Don't think that's urgent. That's KML, sounds like, so that one is more niche, not about customized build itself. This one is related to a deprecation that we did in Kustomize 5.0. So this is pretty interesting to look at. I think we'd like to, when we cut a big release, pay particular attention to issues that had to do with that release, so we can give them attention if there are regressions. This one, I suspect, on the face of it, here I'm gonna paste this one because I think we should triage it. This one on the face of it, I suspect, is not like a new problem to Kustomize 5.0 so much as a difference between an old syntax and a new syntax that our conversion tooling isn't handling. But let's actually look at it properly. Yeah, so they used customize, edit, fix, and seemingly it didn't quite do the right thing. Yeah. So the problem is, if I'm understanding correctly, not that their sample can't work, but that the new syntax as opposed to the old. Let's take a look here. So say they had patches strategic merge. That was strategic merge, right? Oh my gosh. Secret patch, yes, strategic merge. So before you could have multiple patches in the same file. It doesn't even say so, but you could, because the targets were implicit. And in the new syntax, the target is, or can be at least explicit. So having multiple patches per file doesn't necessarily make so much sense. I wonder if we actually say in the docs that you can only have one per file. Let's see. Yeah, it can be omitted. So I want to confirm one thing before I tell them this. Let's just copy their sample in here. So we have customization.yaml. Then we have secret.yaml. So that's their base resource. I'm just going to put it into this resources file. And then we have a patch.yaml. So I'm going to do that. And then I should be able to build. What did I do now? Oh, right, of course. I used their file, so I need to change it to match my file names. Right, so you can get the same error as they do. That makes sense. And then what I want to try is having a patch 2, just to make sure I give them good advice here. So if we take this and we put that in there, and then we duplicate this and we do patch 2, then does it build? Yes. So the problem isn't actually with the patch transformer. The problem was with our instructions for the migration and with customize, edit, fix. Customize, edit, fix should detect that there was a file that had multiple multiple entries in it, multiple documents, and should split them up and write multiple path patch entries. So this one I think is a pretty interesting starter issue, for one, because any change to customize, edit, or basically any command other than customize build is lower pressure. Those commands are used more out of band. Customize build has tons of constraints on it that we have to be really careful about, but the other commands are smaller and more approachable. So this one in particular, yeah, there's a fairly straightforward thing. You need to change the command to see if the file that's being targeted has multiple documents in it, and if it does, split it into multiple files and write the appropriate just path, file 1, file 2, file 3, file 4, into the transformed customization. So would anyone be interested in actually taking this fix on?
I can take a look at it if nobody else wants to. But if somebody else wants to, that's fine too. They feel excited about it.
Since nobody else has spoken up, I will assign you, Brian. All right.
There's another 5.0. Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're just saying that when that error message used to go to standard error and now it goes to standard out, I think is what they're saying.
That would be super surprising. Actually, this one, Kaylin, I think we were talking about this the other day.
Yeah, I tried to reproduce it and didn't get super far. I also combed through like all the changes in the release to see if anything stood out that might have done this, but I haven't done it since you and I talked about like next steps for reproducing.
Okay. Yeah, this just needs to be tried on the command line and essentially redirect standard error. And this should not appear if you've redirected standard error somewhere else. So like this should be, we need to prove that this is actually still going to standard error, hopefully. Yeah, since you're already looking into this, Kaylin, I'll leave it to you. We're already paying attention to this one. I'd be very surprised if that changed, but if it did, we need to fix it. So that is about the script. This one, more examples in that is asking for docs. Seemingly. And re-enable tests. That looks old. Oh, this is coming up because of the new retriage rules that were just implemented in the community. These are KYAML tests. Yeah, we should look at that at some point here. We just only have 3 minutes left. Okay, so I have a couple ones that I need to take away to look into, but I don't think we have time to actually go through another one in full at this point.
Katrina, I was actually looking at one before. I just wanted to get your opinion. I already wrote up a response. If we don't have time to look at another big one, could we look at this one?
Absolutely. Can you share it in the chat?
Yes. I think they're asking for customized placement, if I'm understanding it correctly.
All right. So what are your thoughts on this one?
So I think I wrote up a short response.
Choose this feature request. How does a transformer replace a transformer YAML? So you already have the replacement of YAML. You need to write a script that generates whole thing. Are you saying that this already exists, Anna? Or
Yes. Yes. This is a command that exists.
I don't see a problem with add replacement just to add the path. The complication I see with replacements is that it's not a simple, like there's a lot of configuration that goes into the replacement transformer. If they've done that all already in a path, then that's cool. Like that's very simple for us to add with an edit command. But so I would be inclined to accept this with that caveat that that's what it will do if they're responding that that is useful. What I would be hesitant to accept is an add replacement command that needs a ton of flags to be able to do all the complicated stuff that you can do within the replacement transformer, because I think that would not be worthwhile to maintain.
Right.
If that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah, I think here they said they have a replacement.yaml and then they just want to add those 2 lines, which is why I thought, hey, that sounds straightforward.
Yep, that works for me. Do you want to accept it?
Okay, under the caveat, so I'll write up a brief explanation.
Thanks, Anna.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right, with that, we are at time. Thank you everyone for coming today to this customized bug scrub. I hope it was useful to you, and please give me your feedback by DM or in the customized channel about how we can make this meeting better for everyone and for your goals going forward. Thank you for coming today.